We get to printing, we're going to see two very, very different poems on the theme of public safety. And I'm wondering if you can tell us a bit about your personal aesthetic for your poetry. And how did you come to know that writing was your medium? That's a big question. But maybe if we can show people the poems before they're printed. So this is the exposed poem. So this is Jaden's poem. And in poetry, it's not just the words; it's the way you lay them down on the paper, right? Like the way that you write them.
Oh, there's an ant. Come on, buddy.
We're one with nature in this. The way that you write a poem down on the paper is also part of the experience of poetry. So if we have Jaden's here, but then we look at Gloria's here, quite a bit different. So this is what I meant about thinking about your distinctive styles. Do you want to maybe just speak on that a little bit?
So with poetry, I'm actually very new in poetry. I only did for 9 years, so with poetry, I always like to keep it nice and short.
Yeah.
While writing novels and short stories, that's when you see it be really blue.
Mm-hmm.
But growing up and from where I'm from, just short words, just get straight to the point. And this is a dedication piece, and the few words already captured a whole entire lifetime.
Awesome. Jaden, any thoughts?
When I write, a lot of the times I think about what I might have needed to hear when I was younger, what other youth might want to say, and what I think older generations might need to hear. So when writing this poem, I took into account different ways that I've experienced life and what I might have wanted to hear, what my family might wanted to hear, and what other youth might want to hear.
Awesome. What are your thoughts on the concept of public safety? So that's the overarching theme of this project. When you think about public safety, is there anything you'd like to see change about it?
I feel like when they talk about it, I feel like they exclude different stuff. And I understand everyone has different lived experiences, but if you're going to talk about being inclusive, you have to talk about the whole spectrum. So that means it could be food security, it could be, community safety, it could be all this kind of stuff. Because when we hear public safety, I hear the same few things, unless it's amongst our communities that understand what's going on. So even housing security, while maybe some communities are just thinking about maybe I don't know, fire routes and fire exits. In their community, we need to find exit routes in case of gunshots.
Right.
And these are the things. And I feel like if you want to have everybody's voice, you're going to have to go out, get out of your comfort zone, and start speaking to people. So I would love to see that change, because I only see guidebooks for only certain types of safety.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
I like that association with comfort zone and safety. They're almost saying the same thing, but they're not. And there's one questions the other in really important ways when we're trying to come up with that, especially we're living through the age of COVID, which we think puts an extra special spin on a project like this. Jaden, do you have any thoughts you'd like to share on the same question?
I think I agree with what Gloria was saying. I think decolonizing what the word safety means. I think a lot of the times when you think about the word safety, you think about things like police and security guards and a lot of people who are mostly armed. I think safety needs to be looked at in a community sense more often, and what we can do for our community and what needs to be done for our community, opposed to just police and security.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think we can all agree that that's especially in the last year and a half what we're sort of slowly awakening to more socially. That's really relevant. Yes, we feel very privileged that you joined our project and allow us to print your words on the street. So thank you. Before we start printing, is there anything you wanted to talk about in relationship to your poems?
Oh, I just want to say this is a dedication poem. I want to give a big shout out for inPrint to actually get this area.
Thank you.
Because this dedication poem is actually for a good friend that was murdered this year. And his neighborhood is just down the block. So
I'm so glad that we could do this.
I really want to thank you for this.
That's heartbreaking.
It. So when you read this poem, just know it came from a very deep place. And yeah.
Thank you for
Thank you
allowing us to
sharing
print
that.
it.
Seriously.
Great. So Gloria, was it a challenge to write such a short poem? Because we told you guys like we only want this many words. You only have this much space.
I do write short poems. I usually get like
Here you go.
told off for writing too short poems. But
Oh, we love them.
It depends. It depends, I guess, on what you're trying to say. Sorry.
yeah, so like that's why like this was already enough. And if I could write more,
Yeah,
I just want to write a story. Just want to write a story.
Absolutely.
I write a story, but I'm really glad. I'm glad. Poetry I can write short ones. So
awesome.
all right.
I think
One more time.
Let's move the card.
All right.
There's just a few smeary ones. Look. Hold on.
Where's the
Probably
light?
can't see.
Yeah, let's get the lights.
Somebody get the light.
What? That's great. It turned out so good. Yeah. Look at it. We just got it where the crack is. Where the seam is. That's the only thing. It's a you lost your glows.
We'll give you a paintbrush.
Your glows is not glowing. Oh,
Totally. We just wanted to show everybody while we're preparing for the next print. Gloria has some books. And do you want to tell us about these books again?
It's Kintsugi Memoir, and it's a collection of poetry. And it talks about the beauty even within our brokenness. And there's Head Chronicles. This is a collection of short stories, poetry that talks about the communities within the GTA.
That's
So
awesome.
our voices. So the first one is our art will forever save lives.
I love it.
And this was our voices, a story shall be heard, because we're not going to be silenced no more.
Absolutely. And now your words are literally in the street. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so maybe while they're working on this, Gloria's gonna get the books. We're gonna show, we're gonna watch Jaden print, and then we're gonna look at the books that we made to commemorate this project too.
All right. I'll take it so you can get a go up. Oh. Okay. So that note.
I wish snowflakes could just represent joy during winter, instead of being referenced as cold summers.
Alone late at night, I hope you hear my prayers. Feel my fingers entwined with yours. Grip tight, you are not alone. To my houseless friends, when I walk past without a stare or a glare, I hope you feel my love. Arms wrapped tight around your torsos, you are not alone. To my youth wondering where you'll end up in the world, I hope you hear my words. Travel galaxies and end up where you belong, you are not alone.
Hear each other. This is Bijal Prajapati. Thank you for joining us. Hi.
Hi.
Okay, we're gonna get some questions going. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what drew you to this project.
Well, I'm an Indo-Canadian writer, poet, digital illustrator, and I really love creating projects that involve multiple mediums. I love collaborative projects and just creating with a lot of cool people like Maureen and the inPrint Collective.
We love creating with you.
So what drew me to this project was the collaborative part of it as well. And I really like the idea of printing words as opposed to an image or something.
Nice.
And just really mixing the two mediums of writing and art.
Amazing. We love interdisciplinarity as well. Can you tell us a little bit about your approach to writing poetry? And also, how did you come to know that writing was your medium?
So this poem in particular, it started off as a short story. So the theme is safety, and I thought let's think about safety in terms of mental health, because I think that's really neglected.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about my own life. I wrote a little short story, a quick flash fiction, and then I turned the interesting bits and like the juice of it into a poem, and I really like enjoyed that process of like really honing in on that like really important part of, you know, mental health and the short story that I wrote as well. Yeah.
Awesome. So you also have some past experience with printmaking and inPrint. What do you see as the connection between poetry and print? Like, I feel like I can see a connection. I mean, we started this project, but I'm always interested if people see things the same way as I do, or if they have a different viewpoint I should consider. So what do you see as the connection between print and poetry?
I think, especially silkscreen and like printing, it's just a way of displaying the work, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's like an illustrated work, if you're taking a photo and getting the main parts of it, or like writing. I think these are all artworks, and print just allows you to display that artwork in a really cool and interesting way. For example, like on the street.
What are your thoughts on the concept of public safety? And is there anything you'd like to see change about it? I know that's a loaded question, so take your time, but that's really what this project is about, is to start that conversation.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I wanted to join this project, is because of the theme of safety. I think a lot of the times, like when we write about like concrete things, like I can't even give an example right now, but like, or emotions, right? A lot of it is about emotions, but safety is part of like the hierarchy of needs, and we kind of neglect that just because we usually have our needs here in Canada. Like, the majority of us don't need to think about that, but like especially since the past year with the pandemic and everything, our basic needs are being like jeopardized, and the barrier is now like being shown, right? Like everyone's like second guessing whether they need to go to the grocery store or not, you know? And that's really impacting safety. And I think a lot of us see safety as a physical thing, like keeping your physical body safe, and we kind of neglect that like mental health aspect of it, your mental safety, right? And I think that's kind of why I wanted to write a poem mostly targeting mental health, that part where the restrictions are like becoming more loose, and now you're having to break down that barrier of staying home, having to now talk to people and see people, and that can be so scary, especially if you have like mental health issues like anxiety, like I do. And I think when things start to open up, you really get to see that like now you're fighting the barriers that you've built up because of the pandemic, right?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. First of all, do you have any projects or anything you want to let us know about? Anything you'd like to promote? I know you're very active on social media, and that you also do a lot of illustration. Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, for sure. You can find majority of my stuff on my Instagram, Bejeweled. I think Maureen should like, be linking it.
Yeah.
I have recently done a postcard series of houses, and I think they're for sale as well. There's going to be some really cool things coming up in the next few days, I believe, or few weeks, involving music, which is interesting. And yeah, and if you want to follow me, Instagram is the best place to do that.
Yes. Love seeing all the little hearts. Thank you, everybody. Ooh. Oh, that's nice.
Stage 1. When restrictions lifted, the minotaur that idled by my door departed only for his coat to constrict the ones I loved. Conversations became stunted. withered into fakery. My joints and veins ached, delivering the lucid, I'm good. My throat howled, sending shaken stutters. Which sea of static emojis could mask the pain of talking? I plugged myself back, desperate for the reals of humans.
So thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Alex, for joining us. So I'm just gonna do a panoramic view. So 2 of the poems will go here. We're at the corner of Dundas West and Islington. So that's Montgomery Inn down the street there. So really great. I missed. Then we're gonna put more of your poems in this corner here as well. So we're just gonna have printing going on in the background. And I'm going to ask you guys some questions. Can you both tell us a little bit about yourself and what drew you to this project?
What drew me to the project is that I love the idea of thread and ink and all of it coming together to for this great tactile, usable, and readable thing, like writing come into 3D form feels magical. And
Awesome.
poetry and writing creates like worlds and printmaking and the mediums you use while it's like creating poetry with constraint.
Right.
So that's something that's very relatable, and using different methods with it and like different materials, like the time signature of a sonnet or a haiku to visual poetry, print and sound writing combines music and story. It's kind of like a score. So when you have this made in 3D form on a sidewalk, is kind of like that combination kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with Alex, I guess with Alex, she's just really, I think with her, Alex, do you like the fact that your poem is on the street?
Yes.
Yeah, she's pretty excited. We'll see more of a reaction when she actually sees it in person.
Yeah. So there's like a sort of time-based nature to these works too, because they're not going to be here forever. They're going to maybe last 2 months on the streets before they disappear. So I really like how they're becoming part of the landscape in this mysterious way.
And because the city itself is kind of like it doesn't stay the same always. I like the idea that this is going to be part of that process.
Yeah, and so like I'll throw that out to the audience too. Like you're gonna see as we print, we'll show you what it looks like fresh, but even in a week, it's going to radically change, and it's just this exciting, unpredictable part of the project, which seems to like
tomorrow.
Yeah, it seems to really be part and parcel with the idea of public safety, something that changes with time and ideas and the people that need to be protected. Can you tell us about your approach to writing poetry? How did you come to know that writing was your medium?
I enjoy reading ever since I was a child, and reading stories and having whole worlds come into my mind. Like, when you're reading, that's what it is, like a little television in your head. And you're never alone when you have that. And when I realized that I could do that with short stories or poetry and film, like evoke a thought in somebody else, even if it was beyond or whatever I wrote, even if it's just if I was just the foundation of something like that and I didn't have the rest of the process that goes on people's heads, that I feel I was part of that, and that's pretty rewarding. And for Alex, she's still new to poetry still, and since her primary medium is video edits and music, I like to think that everything she does is kind of like a poem.
For you, Alex, do you like working with your mom? What was that like?
Do you like working with mommy?
Yes.
Yeah, why do you like working with mommy?
Typing.
She likes typing.
That's a legit answer, though. I mean, we like printing because we like the physical process. What do you think?
Alex likes things that are very audio, and so when she types, she really goes hard on the keyboard. So, it's printing. It's printing on the street.
Yeah. What do you think of the ink? It's glow in the dark. It's super bright now. The sun is slowly starting to go down, so we can see the ink in a different way.
So when it gets dark, Alex, people will be able to see the poem.
Yeah. So we're gonna do a big reveal. This is the first poem here. So we can see Micah here has a UV flashlight. And there we go. So this was our Jackie. Just to go back to what we were discussing earlier, you have some past experience with printmaking and inPrint. And what do you see as the connection between poetry and printmaking? Like I think I have like an obvious connection, but I have discovered with printmaking if you're not a printmaker, nothing is obvious.
Mhm.
So it's good to like really be specific in what we think those connections are. So I'm interested in your connections and Alex's connections if she has any.
Well, first of all, when we first started doing stuff at inPrint, what you taught us and what everybody else taught us in the collective, like the act of making quilts
Yeah.
and the different ways of binding and things like that, that really, it was an emotional thing for a lot of the writers that were there with us,
Yes.
including myself, because you see how it really is a work of art, it's just like sculpture. And poetry, in a way, is like sculpting things in from words and
Right.
all that. And I think that the connection between bringing a thought to paper and then from paper to
Yeah.
print is very much a good connection, and that it's kind of how do you say, symbiotic.
Yes. Agree.
And when it all came together and we all started making books and writing in them, and it's just a wonderful experience.
So yeah. What are your thoughts on the concept of public safety? That's our big theme here. We're even, as we're printing this, we're just like, for us, we're like, oh, we hope that nobody's gonna jump the curb while we're printing this. You know, our own safety as we're printing it, the poet safety as you guys worked on these projects with us, especially during COVID. You know, your feelings on that subject, and also if there's something in particular you'd like to see change about public safety in this day and age.
During the time of COVID, I realized how much of freedom as a woman you can have when you take up space. We very much make ourselves smaller in the world. We have to walk in certain directions and have to walk a certain way in order not to be to feel safe. And we always have to make modifications to the way we are. And I think that when it comes to accessibility, many people with special needs have been overlooked during this time of before COVID and after COVID, or during COVID.
Yeah.
But also we've made a few gains with the ability to work from home, accommodations made to be able to go outside, not have to go outside and not get infected outside by people wearing masks and getting the vaccinations. I think with Alex, she benefits because she's been learning to express what she wants outside by telling people, stay away 6 feet.
Yeah.
Learning that at the beginning, she caught that on very quick. She learned to wear a mask, and I would think I like to think that my daughter would like a more accessible world where people not only think about their own safety, but those of many disabled or all sorts of combinations of bodies and brains. We have to stop thinking of people as cookie cutter comparisons when it comes to learning or just navigating.
Yeah.
I would love a world where my daughter can walk on her own and, safe, but
and be supported.
The world isn't built that way,
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to speak a little bit to your inspirations, your particular inspirations for this poem? I know the overarching theme is public safety, but as you and Alex already highlighted, there's so many different ways to take this topic on. What inspired your particular lens for this poem?
Well, because I've been working with my daughter a lot for almost 2 years now with being indoors, doing virtual school with her every day. It's made me realize that with having all the stuff going on outside chaotically, like all these protests, and not just that, the good protests and the bad protests. There were the good protesting, like Black Lives Matter, and all the things that we want to be a part of, and knowing being more aware of Indigenous rights and all that stuff. I feel like it's a time where we have to get everything clean slate.
Yeah.
So like when last week it was raining and we couldn't do it, I was like, yeah, clean slate again. We need to rebuild and move beyond that. That corner where you have all those the poetry there. It's not always going to look like that. It's not always going to be that way. So we have to rebuild, but rebuild in a different way. We can't be doing the same thing.
I just want to see if there's anything you'd like to promote, any projects you and Alex have on the horizon that you want to share, any socials you want people to follow, anything.
Well, first of all, with Alexandria will be in an exhibit at the Royal Ontario Museum.
That is so
Something
exciting.
called hashtag My Pandemic Story, where she has a painting that she did during the pandemic. And it's a project brought by the Royal Ontario Museum to bring about art and video and poetry and stuff that children have done during lockdowns during the pandemic. And it'll be in the lobby of the Royal Ontario Museum, so it's totally free. It'll be this fall, and we will have more information. You can find more information for that at Sakura McD, which is sakuramcd.wordpress.com.
Awesome.
And myself, I'm going to be reading at the Oculus Pavilion, which is in South Humber Park. We're having a thing for Watch Your Head, which is anthology that I'm a part of, that I was an editor for the times of the climate crisis. We did.
Awesome.
We collected a whole bunch of poetry and writings by different writers talking about climate change. And Watch Your Head, and you can get it at Coast House. But yeah, that will be in September 25th, Saturday from 7 to 8:30 p.m. So if you happen to be at Humber Park, South Humber Park, at the Oculus Pavilion that looks like a UFO, we will be reading there.
Awesome. Awesome.
You came from another place to take up a new area in this space to feel safe. Rebuilding meaning, using the steps and colors from your dreams. Building upon what was already there, meticulously parsing, coloring. Let's start together. Instead, by burning it all down, creating new hues, being free for once.
The street is safe. If you look both ways, wait with me and hello. Then the gingerbread man means go you walk the same everywhere you wait to be safe on the street.
Video, and let's have a chat with S. Ripsha Mitra. And thank you for joining us. So one thing we want to say is that Ripsha is joining us from India. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. Is it 6:30 now, maybe?
Yes,
Very early.
6:27.
Yeah. And it's very dark behind me because it's 9 o'clock at night. So if maybe you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and what attracted you to a project in Toronto?
Yes, I'm Rupsha from India. I'm studying psychology honors presently at Loreto College. And I love to write poetry, of course. And along with that, I like studying philosophy. I'm also a culture enthusiast. So what attracted me to Toronto is that I have never been to Toronto, but the very idea of the project, like safety and livable spaces, that really attracted to me. And the idea of giving young poets an opportunity. So that was something that also attracted me. So I felt like I could apply to this project, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity. Thank you.
So for our next question, can you maybe tell us a little bit about your approach to writing and how you came to know that writing was your medium?
Yes, so I used to write poetry when I was very young because I was really introverted. So I would write, and that was the way in which I got to know that poetry is the thing that I can do in writing as well. And then later on, I started knowing about modern poetry. I really liked that. So it is about both using inventive language and also expressing my emotions. So that is how I basically write poetry. And knowing about writing as my medium was as a child, as I was introverted. So I would write. So from there, I could understand that it was my medium.
I also wanted to ask you about some really cool elements in your poetry. So you invoke the divine feminine in Shakti. And I'm wondering if you can tell us about how that fits into your poetry, especially as someone who just identified as very introverted.
Yes. So actually, sometimes I would read about Kali and goddesses, and all of this really sometimes invokes a certain amount of Shakti in me as well, even though I'm introverted. But actually, the thing is that I'm always focusing on being an introvert because I'm really an introvert. So actually, so that is the thing. So, and also during the time I wrote the poetry, I was also toxically associated with someone. I was going through an emotional turmoil. So I felt that what is the thing that would help us rise and also voicing our own opinions. So that was something that I felt greatly about, and that is how I thought that Shakti would be something that I should invoke. So yes, that is what I wrote about.
What are your thoughts actually on the overall topic of public safety? And what particularly drew you to that topic for this project?
Yes, for me, public safety, when talking through the perspective of psychology as well, it is a basic need. So it's also about the equality, and public safety should be for all. So the idea of livable spaces and providing security to everyone, that was something that really appealed to me. So that's what public safety means to me, safety for the marginalized. Yeah.
Right. Do you have anything else that you're working on these days? We're really so grateful for all the poets for joining us. So we want to make sure this is also a platform for to share your work. And we shared some of it with your bio, but is there anything in particular you'd like to share with our audience that you're working on?
Yes, I was working on a chapbook, so I am now looking forward to publishing it. It was also the finalist in poetry chapbook, poetry questions chapbook competition. That is what I'm doing, and also studying. That is all about it. Not really working on something at the moment.
And I'm just going to switch the camera around to show you what your street corner in Etobicoke looks like for your poem. See if I can get that. So this was the first one that we printed. I'm not sure how well we can see that here, but we printed this multiple times. So this is, anybody coming here will see this. And we can see that how your poem integrates into the streets of Toronto with its imperfections and its bumps and ups and downs. So you're actually at this corner here, which is a busy street in Etobicoke, and the other poems are actually not too far from you, but we're in this laneway and it goes into this parking lot. So people entering will come and they will see your poem. This is our street, our inPrint logo with our title here, but then your poem continues. And what we find when we print in these areas is that if I keep charging my flashlight, it's not going to work on this video, but if I keep charging the flashlight on your poem, when I turn off the flashlight, your poem actually will linger for a while. There we go. Beautifully printed. That's beautifully printed.
For how long will we remain suppressed? This incest feud will haunt us. Behold, as we rise in Shakti, the world enlightens, we adorn safety. We sing oaths to the community and gather the empty shards, bits in togetherness, and build secure homes like Padma and regeneration.
And I'd like to introduce you all to Juliet Jones-Rodney. Hello, thank you so much. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what drew you to this particular project?
Well, I'm a multidisciplinary artist. I do music, I have plays, I write songs, I do everything.
That's awesome.
And I just really love the idea of talking to other poets and talking to other creative people, especially after this year.
Yeah.
And being so isolated, I thought it was really important to just like push myself to be social. And I really love the idea of having something be a part of someone's everyday commute and everyday.
Yeah.
So it really just made me think like, I want to make something that will stick in someone's head, you know?
Absolutely. Just thinking especially all the hats you wear as an artist. Can you tell us about your approach to writing poetry? And how did you come to know that writing was your medium? And I ask this because I think about your poem, and I think, oh, you're spoken word and you sing.
when I read your poem in my head, I can definitely hear the rhythm.
Yeah.
And so I wonder too, like, is there a separation for you between poetry that you write versus poetry that you perform?
Actually, not really. I find that I do it interchangeably. Some pieces, like, there's no rhythm at all, and it's just a free verse, like, in my head.
Yeah.
Some things have a rhythm. Some things I write to music originally, and then I just strip it. It just depends.
Yeah.
And as for getting into writing, I don't actually remember. I just remember always doing it.
Yeah.
And I've written in different ways my whole life. In high school, I was the chair of a club, and I had to write a lot of speeches and emails and all the things. So writing in that way just showed me the different words that we have in English, and it made me want to paint pictures.
Thinking about your poem, what are your thoughts on the concept of public safety, and what did you draw on to write this particular poem?
For me, public safety is really important, especially as a Black woman. I feel like we're not talked enough about, and I can't explain the amount of anxiety that I've had in the last 2 years. Just seeing all of the different things that happens to us and other women and other people.
Yeah.
And I recently lost my brother, and he was a street person, and he had a lot of mental issues, and I didn't really get to know him, but I realized it was because everything I was taught about street people and homeless people is in a negative light, and it's in a way that makes them seem like they're other and like they're less than. And I realized that that's just so messed up. So after losing my brother, it just really hit me that it's important to see everybody as the individual and not as a label.
And if you can tell us a little bit about your poem and what the process was like for you to write it.
I actually, to be honest with you, I don't remember 100%.
That's fair. Sometimes you're just making art and you're just in that like zone.
Exactly.
And there's nothing beyond that zone, and then you're just done. You're like, oh, I did that.
Exactly. I remember I was, it was right after the Trinity Bellwoods encampment thing, and the mistreatment of all the people who were living in that camp, and it made me really angry because I didn't feel like enough people were talking about it.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting at work one day, and I was like, yeah, bounded spirits, bounded hands, and then it just went there. Yeah.
I'm wondering if you have any other projects or works or website or social media that you want to promote while you're here.
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually writing a play right now.
Amazing.
It's untitled, but it'll be featured in the Right from the Hip festival, part of Nightwood. Nightwood Theater with Donna Michelle, and I'm super excited, so please look out for that.
Absolutely.
And as well, you can check out my modeling and my music and my covers on my Instagram and on my website, which are both Juliette Jones Rodney. And that's about it.
Do you make visual art at all?
Not really. No.
Well, you paint with words. You paint with words. That's okay. You paint with words, and your words have been amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I used to try, but I found that words and physical art for me is just easier and more available. Yeah.
Absolutely, right? Look at that angle. All right, big reveal.
Oh, so cool.
Awesome. Good job.
Bounded spirit, bounded hands, oppressive ways land me in camps. overlooked, now I'm hooked in a distorted image society took. You see all my improprieties, I battle sobriety, but the tortures and variety, I get spit on, judged, kicked on, my blood is on their hands. It's insanity.